Hi, Stanley here. So I've been sharing about investing through my website Value Invest Asia since 2014. And today we're going to talk about United Overseas Bank or UOB. Many of today's mega corporations were created over the last century, and some of the top companies are still family-owned business right now. And most of them has a very fascinating story of how they came to be. One such company with a very colorful history is United Overseas Bank, or UOB. Although today we see UOB as one of the largest banks in Singapore and it is a stable and profitable company in the region, the journey of how it became what it is today is volatile and dramatic. And to tell you the story of UOB, we have to go back all the way 100 years and travel back to Sarawak, Borneo. Dato Sri Wee Keng Chia was the main co-founder of UOB. But his journey to creating this regional bank was extremely unlikely. You see, Wee Keng Chia was born in 1890 to a very poor Sarawakian Chinese family. His family settled in a small town just outside of Kuching, the main city of Sarawak. At the time, Sarawak was still under the British administration, ruled by the White Rajas. Wee Keng Chia's father, Wee Tia, has migrated from Fujian, China. And when he came over, he has to leave behind his wife back in China. And he never saw her again. This situation was not uncommon for many who migrated to Southeast Asia from China at the time. And after he settled down in Sarawak, Wee Sr. married another local Chinese woman by the name of Chu Kim Kia. And this was the mother of Wee Keng Chia. Together, the couple had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. And Keng Chia was in the middle child. But life was never easy. The family was living in poverty as farmers, and the living condition at the time was terrible and unhygienic. Wee Tia ended up contracting cholera and died in his 30s. And at that time, Wee Keng Chia was just 6 years old. And a year after his father's death, Keng Chia's mother had to send him and his elder brother back to China to live with his father's first wife. So the boys packed up and left in a junk boat for the long journey back to Fujian, China. Despite not being their birth mother, the first wife took great care of the boys and had a very close relationship with Keng Chia. But when Keng Chia was 15, there was a health epidemic in the village, and his mother from China begged a relative to bring Keng Chia back to Sarawak to escape the epidemic. And due to the misfortune, Keng Chia ended up back in Sarawak, and he never saw his mother again back in China. And a decade later, when he returned as a successful businessman, she has already passed on. So when Keng Chia returned back home in Sarawak, his family was still struggling as farmers. He would spend most of his time helping out with the family farm. However, one turning point for him was that he was able to return to a school at the age of 16. Throughout his time in China, he never really had any formal education. In Sarawak, there's a mission school called St. Thomas, and he was able to enroll there as there's no age limit for school at the time. The teachers at St. Thomas were mainly British and European missionaries, and he learned a very valuable skill during that time. The school teachers taught him how to speak and write in English. That was extremely important at a time where literacy rate in the colony was very low, and English was still the main communication language in business and in government. So Keng Chia completed his primary education and found a job as a clerk in the Borneo Company, which is one of the key government-linked companies in Sarawak at the time. The company basically has a monopoly distribution right to many import and export items, earning huge profit for the company. And the job introduced Keng Chia to the world of business, and there he learned quickly about the mechanics of the company's multiple business. For example, Borneo Company has interest in multiple mining operations, but Keng Chia learned that although the idea of mining is attractive, most of the group mining operations were losing money. Instead, most of the profit came from the import-export division of the company, as it has sole distribution right to many essential items. And therefore, it can control the pricing of this item, earning huge profit. Keng Chia was able to learn all this in a short span of time by just being in the company for about 6 months. And seeing that there's little prospect for him in his job, he left to join the government as an office assistant. He was tasked with handling the Chinese affair. In that job, he would learn about the government process, and he happened to be able to network with many senior officers of the department as well. Again, he only lasted 3 months there, and he left to join the Sarawak Steamship Company. This company was the dominant shipping company in Sarawak and has a stronghold in goods traveling between Kuching and Singapore. However, again, he saw that he has not much prospect here in the job. And very quickly, in a few months' time, Keng Chia left again to work for the most powerful Chinese businessman in Sarawak, Ong Tian Sui. And Ong Tian Sui is the Kapitan Cina of Sarawak, sort of a mayor for the Chinese community. And so he has strong political and also business influence in the Sarawak community. Ong also has a very diversified business interest, from trading to pharmaceutical companies, farming, manufacturing, plantation, even banking. You name it, he might have interest in them. Man, why am I sweating? Okay, let me try that again. So, Ong Tian Sui was the main shareholder of Tiong Hua Bank, the first commercial bank in Sarawak. So Keng Chia learned the art of business and networking from Ong, and his talent was also appreciated by Ong at the time. So in just a few months for working for Ong, Keng Chia was promoted to become a manager. And the business that Keng Chia was handed to manage grew strongly and generated great profit for Ong, and that really cemented the trust between them. And working for Ong became a turning point for Keng Chia's life. He impressed Ong so much that when Ong's daughter came of age for marriage, Ong and his wife chose Keng Chia to be their son-in-law. So we married in 1911 and became the son-in-law to one of the wealthiest men in Sarawak. After that, he continued to work for his father-in-law for another 10 years across many of his business. And also through his father-in-law, he was able to build strong relationship with important people in Sarawak, both in the business arena and also the political scene. By 1921, at the age of just 31, Keng Chia started his own trading company called Hiap Cheng Leong. The company started out as a trading company for liquor, which required a specific license granted by the White Raja. And over the next few years, Keng Chia started many more trading companies, each trading different type of product, from unique products like crocodile skin, bird nest, to necessity like pepper, rubber, and other commodities. So by 1924, Keng Chia has a wide business interest and a very established business leader in the community in his own right. So as his business spanned across many markets, customers started to ask him to help send cash remittance back to China. And seeing that this could be an opportunity, Keng Chia started his first financial startup. With his friend Su Kok Siang in 1924, the Ban Chiang Bank was born. And this planted the seed for him to start UOB later on in Singapore as well. So he continued to grow and add more business into his group of companies for the next decade. So by 1935, he ventured into Singapore and co-founded the United Chinese Bank, UCB, and in Chinese, 大华银行. And although by the end of the 1930s, Keng Chia is an extremely wealthy man with 2 banks, it was not as smooth sailing as we might imagine. The bank really struggled for many years with shortage of funds to maintain the business. And by 1937, Japan had started invading China. Keng Chia was one of the key organizers of raising funds for China to defend against the Japanese invasion. He was elected as the head of Sarawak China Relief Fund Committee. Unfortunately, due to his high-profile involvement with the anti-Japanese movement, he was targeted when the Japanese conquered Malaya and Singapore. He and his brother were arrested, tortured, and went into forced labor. The torture was so severe that it ended his brother's life. And Keng Chia was scheduled for execution himself, but was safe as the Japanese surrendered before his execution. So after the war, he had to travel to London for surgery to treat his multiple damage done to his body due to the torture. And once he recovered, he returned and he reunited with his family in Singapore. There, he went about trying to revive his businesses. The main business that needed his attention was the United Chinese Bank. He took over the operation personally and became the chairman and the managing director of the company. Some of the senior management has already died during the war or has resigned. So by 1948, he successfully revived the company and was able to double the gross asset of the company to $12 million. And as the region started to recover, economic activity started coming up again, the bank started to grow together as well. By 1957, King Chang appointed his fourth son, Wee Cho Yao, to the board, furthering strengthening the family control and management of the bank. Under Cho Yao, the bank started a rapid growth over the next few decades. During his helm, UOB started expanding overseas, for example, to Hong Kong, Tokyo, London, New York. Cho Yao was also instrumental in acquiring many of the smaller banks across the region and consolidating the influence of UCB. In 1963, another major inflection point happened. The Federation of Malaysia was born, consisting of Malaya, Singapore, Sabah, and Sarawak. This formation really triggered a strong denouncement from the Indonesian government, who fought for their independence from the Dutch after World War II. And Indonesian government see the Federation of Malaysia as a neo-colonistic plot and threatened military action against the new country. Although the hostility never erupted into a full-out war, Indonesia did severe trade ties with Malaysia. And for the bank, in order to get over this economic blockage, Cho Yao found that it is possible if they are able to trade through Hong Kong. So he set out to Hong Kong to acquire a banking license. Unfortunately, the Hong Kong authority is willing to give a banking license to Cho Yao, but he has to change the company name as there is already a United Chinese Bank based in Hong Kong. So that is the reason in 1965, the board approved that the bank officially changed their name to United Overseas Bank, UOB, and the company continued to retain its Chinese name, Dahua Yinghang. Finally, a crisis averted. Then came 1965. Singapore announced it is leaving the Federation of Malaysia. Prime Minister Lee shed the famous tears on TV. No one can be certain of the future of Singapore. But that only made the whole nation more determined than ever to survive on its own. And during this period, UOB also assisted greatly in the development of Singapore economically. The bank started investing into other non-core businesses to help boom the economy of Singapore. For example, it bought a 50% stake into the government-owned textile factory in 1966. It is also the key financer to infrastructure projects in Singapore, such as the Jurong Shipyard, the Jurong Industrial Estate, and also the National Iron and Steel Mill. Over the next few decades, as Singapore grew, UOB grew. Fast forward to modern day, a key milestone for UOB was in 2001, when under the leadership of Cho Yao, it outbid DBS Bank to take over Overseas Union Bank, OUB. And the $10 billion merger set the stage for UOB to become one of the largest banks across Southeast Asia. And UOB continued to prosper till today. The patriarch, Wee Keng Chia, lived to an age of 88. In his last few years, he became a devoted Buddhist and passed all his business in Sarawak and Singapore over to his children. Over the life of Wee Keng Chia and the story of UOB, it seems that the creation of a multi-generation family business involved many personal traits of the founder, but also a massive amount of luck. I can think of a few factors that might contributed to UOB and the Wee's family's success. For example, number one, being capable is a prerequisite. Firstly, you must be capable. This is a given. The world can throw all the opportunity at you. If you're unable to do the work to convert that opportunity into wealth, it will become wasted opportunity. Keng Chia is clearly capable and he's very good at spotting where his talent can be better recognized. He knew that his talent would not be appreciated in a government-linked company or inside the government department. And so he swiftly changed job until an environment that he believed that he can be rewarded for his ability. Number two, having the right network. From his marriage, Wee was able to gain access to the top society in Sarawak. And using that as a springboard, he was able to network his way across the region in Singapore and throughout Malaysia. And this led him to start a bank in Singapore. Number three, being in the right industry. Although today we associate the Wee family with banking, the fact is Wee family started multiple businesses. And maybe during his time, the bank might not even be the biggest business that he was managing. Yet, it is one that survived and thrived. So in order to create a business empire, we must first be in the right industry that could grow over time with the market. And number 4, being in the right market. So finding the right industry is just part of the equation. The industry need to be in the right market as well. For example, we started banks both in Sarawak and Singapore. However, the bank in Singapore was able to outgrow that in Sarawak significantly. That growth coincided with Singapore becoming a financial hub in the region. Number 5, being lucky. Although being tortured might not be counted as lucky, but the fact is Wee Keng Chia survived the war despite all the hardship, including his own brother that did not survive. And with that new life opportunity, he was able to regain control of his company and save them from destruction. UOB was also in the right market when Singapore separated from Malaysia. If Singapore were to fail as a nation, so would UOB. But instead, the bank was able to grow and help the nation grow together. To put that into perspective, Ban Hian Bank in Sarawak, their family lost out of the controlling stake back in 1970s, and the bank later on was acquired by CIMB Group. So you can see it's the same business, different market, but different fate. Today, UOB is a $46 billion company and continue to grow as Singapore banks were taking over many of the private wealth businesses from Western banks in the region. So do you think this bank has the ability to grow for the next 100 years? And what other companies do you want us to review and dig into its history as well? Comment down below and let me know. So you can see I do many in-depth analysis of interesting stocks, and all that you can find even more details in our Value Invest Asia Premium Club for our members. You can find out more about that on the members link below. Hope this story is useful for you and your investing journey. Till we meet again, my name is Stanley. Invest safely.